Here is Immortal Moments for explanation. Friends, like videos and subscribes to our channel. Martial Universe Season 10 Part 82 Explanation. So let's start our explanation. When Qingji saw this, murderous desire erupted within his eyes. Following which, he emitted a roar from his dragon mouth, before green light swept across the place and he once again charged forward. Immediately, tens of thousands of dragon light tattoos transformed into 100,000 feet large green dragon, before it roared and charged wildly towards the large devil. After all, there was no way Qingji could retreat at this juncture. If he did so, it would allow this humongous devil to charge into the Alliance army, which would definitely lead to massive casualties. Ayo! The huge devil also roared wildly. Then, he stared at Qingji, who was charging over. Immediately, an endless amount of black blood began to gather at its huge mouth and palm. Finally, with a loud bang, the black blood directly transformed into a black ray of light, before it smashed onto Qingji's body with lightning-like speed. Bang! Qingji's dragon scales were instantly shattered. After which, his huge body flew backwards in front of countless pairs of shocked eyes from the Alliance army. In fact, a large bloody hole had appeared on his shoulder. Die? A roar, which was filled with murderous desire and brutality, was emitted from the huge devil's mouth. Following which, his exceptionally sharp devil palm whizzed forward before it ruthlessly smashed towards Qingji. From the looks of it, the devil clearly wanted to kill Qingji. Help him! Anxious, furious roars were emitted from those top experts from the Alliance. Following which, monstrous Xuan power pillars shot forward in an attempt to block that huge devil. However, the latter completely ignored them. Instead, that huge devil allowed those attacks to land on its body, causing it to tremble violently. Swoosh! That devil palm slammed down mercilessly before it ruthlessly struck Qingji. However, just as the crowd had resigned themselves to stare helpless and wait for Qingji to suffer a heavy blow, a low and deep noise suddenly sounded in the sky. Immediately, that descending devil palm froze. What's that? Countless individuals were startled. Then, they quickly looked above Qingji before they saw a figure standing in the air. That man extended his right hand before he gently blocked that huge devil palm. There was a startling contrast in their size. However, owing to that man's skinny palm, that humongous devil was unable to budge. Tang Xinlian looked at that familiar-looking skinny figure. First, she was startled. However, soon after, wild joy spread on her pretty face. Lindong? In the sky, there was a skinny figure hovering in mid-air below that huge devil palm. His skinny-looking body contained a frightening amount of power, as he easily intercepted that devil palm. Is that Elder Lindong? Some members of the Chaotic Demon Sea Alliance exclaimed in shock. Ever since the Alliance was established 1 year ago, Lindong had went missing and it was rumored that he went into a cultivation seclusion. Unexpectedly, he had actually showed up at a critical moment like this. He arrived just in time. Currently, Tang Xinlian's pretty face was plastered with joy. Right now, the entire place was a battlefield. However, on the whole, there were no top experts from either party in the 3 battlefields. This was because the strongest individuals from the Devil Prison were all in the Western Xian region under the watchful eyes of the Ancient Masters. In the same vein, the Ancient Masters were unable to lend a hand to this fight. Therefore, after Lindong showed up, it would undoubtedly help their side immensely. Elder Qingji, you all right? After he stopped the devil palm, Lindong tilted his head to look at Qingji, who was standing behind him, before he asked. Green light was glimmering on Qingji's body. After which, he slowly turned back into human form before he wiped off the trace of blood on the corner of his lips. Following which, he gave a bitter smile towards Lindong before he said, Have you left your seclusion? Lindong nodded. With a smile, he said, Leave this big fella to me. Qingji did not object to this. Currently, though Lindong's body did not give off any fluctuations, Qingji vaguely caught a whiff of an extremely dangerous aura. Clearly, after spending 1 year in a cultivation seclusion, Lindong's strength had soared to a level beyond his comprehension. This transformation caused him to sigh while feeling pleased at the same time. He recalled that the first time he met Lindong, the latter was merely a young man who had stood out in the Small Hundred Empire War. At that time, he realized that Lin Dong was quite talented and decided to teach him the Green Heaven materialized dragon skill. However, who could have imagined that after many years, that young man from before had actually surpassed him? Be careful. This huge devil was created after the merger of over a dozen true kings. Although it cannot survive for long, it is extremely violent. Qingxi warned Lin Dong. Subsequently, he descended before he protected the many experts from the alliance. A merged Yumoha. Lin Dong was not surprised by this fact. After all, this was similar to the way the three great heads of Yuan Gate fought. However, these Yimo were even more brutal and fearsome. Nevertheless, this should also be the limits of their merger. In fact, they would likely self-destruct if they forcefully added more individuals. Roar! That humongous devil withdrew its devil palm. Then, it used its brutal eyes to stare at Lin Dong before it released a furious roar. Immediately, black blood began to spurt out from within its massive body like a fountain. Following which, those blood wiggled before an extremely evil fluctuation was emitted. Devil blood whirled. A furious buzzing roar was emitted from the huge devil's fearsome large mouth. Soon after, the black blood actually began to spread abruptly. Then, just like a ball of light, it enveloped Lin Dong. After which, that blood ball quickly shrunk, before a frightening fluctuation swiftly gathered. Swoosh! In the blink of an eye, the blood ball was merely a couple of dozen feet in size. Meanwhile, Lin Dong's body was enveloped within. After which, that humongous devil suddenly clenched its fist as it tried to burst that blood ball in an attempt to kill Lin Dong. Kai? However, right before it could clench its devil palm, a long hand directly penetrated that blood ball with a loud splash. After which, Lin Dong ripped that blood ball, which was formed by gathering a terrifying amount of energy, into two pieces as though it was a thin piece of paper. Lin Dong smiled. With a flip of his palm, he sucked that shattered blood ball into his palm. As it slowly rotated, it turned into a fist-sized black bead. Go? Lin Dong flicked his finger before a trace of primal chaos light flashed across the surface of that black bead. Subsequently, that black bead transformed into a black ray of light before it streaked across the sky and struck the chest of that humongous devil. Sizzle sizzle. Though that black bead did not seem to possess much strength, the devil body, which could withstand an all-out attack from Qingxi, was directly penetrated by that tiny devil bead, before it burrowed deep within its body. Fool, are you trying to use our demonic aura to kill us? After that devil bead shot into that humongous devil body, the latter released a piercing loud laugh. This was because after the devil bead entered its body, it did not cause the slightest damage to it. Instead, it even allowed the demonic aura within its body to soar. Upon hearing this, Lin Dong gave a gentle smile before he gently clenched his hand and asked, "Is that so?" Bang! After Lin Dong clenched his hand, the wild and maniacal laughter from the huge devil suddenly ceased. Promptly, its huge body trembled violently before several primal chaos light rays shot out from within its body. Ah! Thanks to the primal chaos light, the endless demonic aura within the huge devil body were disappearing at an extremely frightening rate. Subsequently, the body of that huge devil split apart before dozens of devil figures fell out. After which, they vomited black blood violently. Lin Dong had forcefully pulled out these true kings, which had been merged together within the huge devil. After they were forced out, these true kings all had ashen expressions. Meanwhile, their eyes were filled with intense fear as they stared at Lin Dong. However, even before they could make a move, with no emotions on his face, Lin Dong had already made his move. Rumble! A lightning dragon streaked across the sky. This lightning dragon looked extremely lifelike and there were thunderbolts sparkling on its huge body. Compared to the lightning dragons from before, this dragon looked so real that it felt as though it was alive. Meanwhile, it gave off a relatively frightening aura. Swoosh! That lightning dragon charged downwards. Following which, everywhere it passed, the true kings were blasted apart one after another as miserable screeches sounded. Thunderbolt force spread before it removed the demonic aura completely. When the true king saw how brutal Lin Dong was, they began to flee immediately. When Lin Dong saw this, he swung his sleeve. Following which, several 10,000 feet large black holes appeared behind those true kings. After which, those black holes rotated before they devoured those Yumo just like a huge mouth. Within a short period of time, a dozen over true kings were completely eliminated by Lin Dong. This scene left countless individuals on the battlefield taken aback. After he got rid of those true kings, Lin Dong stared indifferently at the battlefield below. This was the first time he had ever witnessed such a huge battle. In fact, the battlefield basically encompassed the entire Northern Sea region. Demonic aura and Yuan power clashed wherever he looked. There were millions of Yumo here. Meanwhile, the Alliance army had a similar number of troops. Moreover, these were not ordinary troops as every single one of them was fairly skilled. A thought passed through Lin Dong's mind. Immediately, countless thunder clouds gathered in the sky. Following which, deafening rumbling noises echoed across the sky, drowning the battle cries from all over the place. You guys should have never came to this world. Thunderbolts surged. Lin Dong was standing in the sky as he looked nonchalantly at the numerous Yumo. Following which, an icy cold expression rose within his eyes before he said, "Therefore, all of you shall be purified. Perhaps, your souls can return to where they belong to." Rumble. The entire world trembled at this moment. The thunder cloud swelled before countless thunderbolts, which contained frightening amounts of thunderbolt strength, began to rain down wildly. Wherever the thunderbolts swept past, countless Yumo were vaporized even before they had the opportunity to scream. After receiving such a frightening attack, the fearsome Yumo army was demoralized. In fact, horror flashed across the eyes of some Yumo. After losing their true king commanders, it was clear that they were no longer as fearsome as before. Charge! A cold glint flashed across Tang Xinlian's pretty eyes. Immediately, she took advantage of the weakened Yumo army's morale as she shouted coldly. Promptly, monstrous killing intent erupted from within the Alliance army before it swept forth. Instantly, the Yumo army was battered by them. Nonetheless, these Yumo were indeed fearsome creatures. Even up against a situation like this, they continued to put up a firm resistance. At the same time, they continuously inflicted heavy casualties to the Alliance. Fresh blood dyed the ocean. However, after they lost the main fight, their all-out efforts clearly could not affect the overall battle. In the end, the Yumo army's resistance grew weaker and weaker. Ayo! After they realized that defeat was certain, some cries erupted from within the Yumo army. Subsequently, countless Yumo charged towards the ocean. Clearly, they were planning to dive into the ocean to escape. These Yumo were extremely powerful. Therefore, it would be extremely troublesome if they escaped. However, when she saw that they were withdrawing, a cold smile flashed over Tang Xinlian's face. Following which, a cold voice resounded, "Sea Demon Army, do not allow any Yumo to escape." Bang! All of a sudden, countless large waves rose from beneath the ocean. After which, the ocean was seemingly split apart as countless sea demon soldiers mounting various sea monsters charged out from the bottom of the ocean. Faintly, there seemed to be an extremely large light formation at the bottom of the ocean, sealing off all exit paths from the ocean. Standing in the sky, Lin Dong stared at the Yumo army, which had been trapped, before he slowly relaxed his palm. Then, he lifted his thumb towards Tang Xinlian. She was as impressive as ever. Everything was arranged accordingly and she did not give the Yumo army the slightest chance to retreat. Standing amidst thousands of soldiers, when Tang Xinlian saw Lin Dong's action, a sleek red sexy lips lifted into a proud arc. After which, she stared directly back at Lin Dong with no signs of evasion. The gentle and bewitching emotion within her eyes caused Lin Dong to involuntarily turn his head. Only then, did she burst out in laughter. Lin Dong exhaled softly. After they cleaned up this battle, the war in the chaotic Demon Sea was officially over. Subsequently, after they stabilized the situation in the Demon region and the Western Xian region, it was likely time to engage in a final decisive battle with the Devil Prison. Are they monitoring the upper echelon of the Devil Prison? Lin Dong looked in the direction of the 4 Xian regions before he muttered. At this moment, an icy blue figure was seated on a mountain peak at the border of the distant eastern and western Xian region. Suddenly, as if she detected something, she opened her pretty eyes before she looked towards the chaotic demon sea. Finally, she slowly clenched her small hands, which were covered with snow-white gloves. Has he left his seclusion? The Alliance army had finally achieved victory in the chaotic demon sea war. Although this was partly due to Lin Dong's participation, a larger part of the reason was because the Devil Prison army did not obtain any reinforcements. In such a situation, the Yimo naturally did not have much of a chance against the united Chaotic Demon Sea Alliance. Despite this, the Chaotic Demon Sea Alliance still spent a full 5 days in order to eliminate these Yimo after the end of the war. Only then were the Yimo completely routed from the Chaotic Demon Sea. The war had ended. However, the sea regions which had been occupied by the Devil Prison army were terrible states. Demonic qi had even seeped into the sea water, causing all life to die. Many sea regions were filled with various floating corpses, while a stench engulfed the entire place. The eyes of everyone from the Alliance army turned red upon seeing this tragedy. These Yimo were far too brutal and cruel. Peace would be impossible until these Yimo were completely eradicated. However, they clearly did not have much time to purify the sea regions that had been polluted by demonic qi. The moment the war within the Chaotic Demon Sea ended, the Alliance army began to split into two under Tang Xinlian's command. Half would support the 4 Xian region alliance, while the other half would support the Demon region. Only by quickly eliminating the Yimo in the 3 regions would they be able to engage the Devil Prison in a decisive battle without any worry. After musing for a moment, Lin Dong led half of the Alliance army and headed for the 4 Xian region. It was after all a little closer to the western Xian region. Although Ying Huan's group was constantly observing Devil Prison, it was best for him to hurry over as soon as possible to avoid any unexpected situations. It was likely that with Tang Xinlian leading the other half of the Chaotic Demon Sea Alliance army towards the Demon region would be able to swiftly turn things around and resolve the unrest there. Tang Xinlian greatly supported this arrangement by Lin Dong. Hence, after the situation of the Chaotic Demon Sea was stabilized, the two of them led an army each and headed towards the east and west respectively. Eastern Xian region, Sunset Plains. This was the border between the Eastern Xian region and Southern Xian region. It was also where the 4 Xian region alliance army was located. Facing them on the plains 100 miles away was the invading Devil Prison army. The 4 Xian region alliance army were currently training on the plains, as shouts filled the sky. A couple of figures were standing in front of the army, while a slim figure stood at the head of this group. She wore a black dress and had a beautiful figure. However, her pretty and exquisite face was currently filled with murderous desire. Those pitch-black night sky-like pretty eyes slowly swept over the vast and endless plains. Who else could it be other than Qing Tan? At this moment, she was not only the master of Darkness Palace, but also the alliance chief of the 4 Xian region alliance. Although she was very young, she had already proven her position as commander through the many bloody battles with Devil Prison over the past year. Hence, the countless pairs of eyes on the plains were filled with respect when they looked at her. Ling Qingzhu wore a white dress as she stood behind Qing Tan. She had a distant demeanor. That extremely pretty and seemingly flawless face of hers seemed to appear even more full of life than the past for some reason. Moreover, there was a mysterious faint scent on her that caused respect and fear to rise in the hearts of anyone who saw her. Oh! While Ling Qingzhu observed the plains, her expression suddenly changed, and she turned her head to look at the distant sky. An intense spatial fluctuation had suddenly appeared. Soon after, a large number of figures rushed out like a swarm of locusts. Their overwhelming aura caused the land to shake. Woo! Warning sirens immediately erupted within the 4 Xian region alliance in response to this unexpected situation. Soon after, countless figures rose into the air as Yuan power dashed into the sky. There is no need to panic. Those are our allies from the Chaotic Demon Sea Alliance. Ling Qingzhu's voice spread at this moment. Only then did the tense atmosphere over the plains ease up. The Chaotic Demon Sea Alliance army? Could they have already finished off the Yimo in the Chaotic Demon Sea? How impressive! Now that these brothers have come, we will no longer need to fear those Yimo. This time, we will definitely be able to exterminate them. Agreed. An earth-shaking cheer erupted from the 4 Xian Region Alliance army after their caution disappeared. Countless individuals waved their hands excitedly at the large locust-like army that was approaching from afar. That is, Big Brother Lin Dong. Although the coldness on her face had diminished slightly because of the arrival of the Alliance army, she still maintained her demeanor as the Alliance chief of the 4 Xian region. However, when she saw the figure at the front of the army, the coldness on her small face vanished. Her joyous appearance stunned the surrounding upper echelons of the 4 Xian region alliance. They only understood after hearing Lin Dong's name. By the side, Ling Qingzhu nodded her head as she looked towards the approaching army. Although her beautiful face still appeared distant, everyone could see some warmth appearing within her eyes. This involuntarily caused several people to quietly shake their heads. These two ladies were fancied by countless young and outstanding men within the 4 Xian region alliance. However, it seemed that there was little hope for these individuals. With such a monstrous rival, where would they find the courage to compete? The alliance army swiftly approached. Finally, they landed on the spacious plains. Lin Dong moved and directly appeared on the tall platform. Big Brother Lin Dong, Qingtan said in a happy voice, while her slim figure had already pounced over. Lin Dong hurriedly caught her. He held her small and narrow waist as he dotingly rubbed Qingtan's small head. He smiled and said, "You have already become the alliance chief of the 4 Xian region, yet you act as though you are a child." Qingtan grinned happily. Her pure and innocent appearance was completely void of the cold murderous aura she had when she was in the alliance. She looked like a naive young girl who was unaware of the world's affairs. However, only the experts from the alliance, who had tasted her tactics, knew just what kind of frightening methods hid under this seemingly silly appearance. Lin Dong smilingly chatted with Qingtan. After which, he looked at Ling Qingzhu and gave her a warm smile. The latter's usually aloof face reddened slightly upon seeing his smile and shifted her face to the side. "How is the situation here?" Lin Dong asked. "Our 4 Xian region alliance has been stuck in a stalemate with the Devil Prison army. However, Big Brother Lin Dong, you should be aware that in terms of strength, our 4 Xian region is likely the weakest amongst the 3 great alliances. Hence, we have not been able to obtain the upper hand," Qingtan said somewhat helplessly. Lin Dong was unsurprised. Of the 4 Xian regions, the Western Xian region had already completely fallen under the control of Devil Prison. Thus, it was a little inferior when compared to the chaotic Demon Sea and Demon Region alliances. It was already rather good that Qingtan's group could hold out till now. "No problem. I have brought half of the chaotic Demon Sea alliance over. This should be sufficient to eliminate this Devil Prison army," Lin Dong grinned and said. Qingtan nodded her small head. With these reinforcements, the situation would definitely become one-sided. Lin Dong pulled Qingtan and approached Ling Qingzhu. He was suddenly stunned when he looked at her, and it was clear that he had detected something strange about the latter. Moreover, the thing that surprised Lin Dong the most was the fact that he was unable to detect Ling Qingzhu's current cultivation level. "No need to keep sensing, I have already released all of my Yuan power," Ling Qingzhu faintly smiled and said when she felt Lin Dong's gaze. "Released?" Lin Dong was startled. He said in a somewhat stunned voice, "Why have you released your Yuan power?" "Now, you." Lin Dong paused at this point. Although he was indeed unable to detect any Yuan power fluctuations from Ling Qingzhu, he could vaguely feel a familiar feeling emanating from her. Ling Qingzhu extended her hand, and faint primal chaos light suddenly gathered within it. A mysterious and powerful ripple pulsed. "This is Zenith power?" Lin Dong let out a startled voice. This was the power from sensing the Zenith. "Yes. I have chosen to take a different path. Instead of cultivating Yuan power, I am meditating the Zenith and absorbing its power into my body." Ling Qingzhu nodded. "Even I do not know what cultivation level I am at now. However, it seems that I am much stronger than before." Even with Lin Dong's mental fortitude, he involuntarily gasped. What was choosing to take a different path? Was there another path in this world other than practicing Yuan power or mental energy? Lin Dong was aware that this path was to absorb zenith power. However, how many people in this world could detect the zenith? Moreover, even if they did, how would it be possible for them to absorb zenith power into their body? This was likely something that even Lin Dong could not do. Additionally, Ling Qingzhu was also a little too bold. She had simply gotten rid of the Yuan power she had painstakingly cultivated for dozens of years at a whim. This was even more decisive than his destruction of the Niwen Palace. It is only possible to maintain a pure heart and to sense the zenith without other powers. This actually seems to be pretty good. Ling Qingzhu softly said. Her beautiful face gave off an ethereal fairy-like feeling. She had a distant demeanor to begin with. Now that this feeling was added, she truly appeared like a fairy descending upon the mortal realm. Lin Dong rubbed his nose. Originally, he had thought that he was quite abnormal. He never imagined that Ling Qingzhu was worse. Even he had never thought of such a thing. It seemed that Ling Qingzhu clearly had a much greater talent than him when it came to sensing this so-called zenith. Leave the chaotic Demon Sea Alliance army to Qingtan and I. We will finish off this devil prison army. Now, I suggest you go and visit her. Ling Qingzhu lifted a bundle of her fine black hair. Her clear eyes looked at Lin Dong as she spoke. Huh? Lin Dong was taken aback. Soon after, he quickly recovered. Ying Huan? What happened to her? You should go and take a look. It should be possible for you to detect where they are. Ling Qingzhu shook her head and said. Unease rose within Lin Dong's heart. He quickly nodded. Without further ado, silver light flashed and he disappeared. Ling Qingzhu sighed softly after seeing Lin Dong disappear. The border between the Eastern Xian region and Western Xian region. This was front line of the Western Xian region. Just another 100 miles or so, and one would enter the territory of the Western Xian region, which had already the headquarters of Devil Prison. A couple of figures were silently seated on a towering mountain at the border. They appeared extremely small on the mountaintop, but they gave off an imposing aura that made respect and fear arise in one's heart. The symbol ancestor line had received the respect of the countless of lives in this world since ancient times. This was not merely because they stood at the peak of this world. Instead, it was because they possessed a willingness to sacrifice themselves for others. Back then, the symbol ancestor had ignited his reincarnation, and sealed both the Yimo Emperor and the crack between the planes in order to protect the countless lives of this world. It was through this act that they were able to prevent this world from falling into the enemy's hands. His 8 disciples had similarly given everything they had for this world. All the experts of this world had a heartfelt respect when they talked about these heroes. This was also the reason why Ying Huan's group could easily establish the 3 great alliances. It was not purely due to the pressure from their strength. Instead, it was due to what they had done for this world in the past.
Ying Huan sat quietly at the top of the mountain peak. At this moment, her eyes were not shut to cultivate. Her slim fingers within a pair of white gloves were aimlessly drawing circles on a rock on the ground. This absent-minded manner of hers was witnessed by the Flame Master and the others by the side. Such feelings were normally rarely seen on her. The Flame Master's group exchanged glances with each other as they smiled bitterly and shook their heads. She had been acting in such a manner ever since she detected that Lin Dong had exited his cultivation seclusion. However, it was at least much better than her iciness from before. The chaotic Demon Sea situation has already been stabilized. It is said that Tang Xinlian has already led half of the chaotic Demon Sea Alliance army to aid the Demon region, while Lin Dong had led the other half to the 4 Xian regions. The Flame Master suddenly said. Ying Huan's hand suddenly paused upon hearing that name. After which, she nodded. Once the Demon region and the 4 Xian regions finish off the Devil Prison army on their side, we will be able to attack the Western Xian region. The Darkness Master's eyebrows lifted as she looked towards the distant Western Xian region. Even though it was very far away, it was still possible for them to detect the frightening demonic chi surging there. I wonder just what Devil Prison is doing. They are far too quiet. The Thunderbolt Master and the others also nodded. Devil Prison had basically done nothing during this period, and simply allowed them to eliminate the 3 Devil Prison armies. Clearly, given the cunning character of Devil Prison, they would not do something as foolish as making unnecessary sacrifices. If this was so, it meant that the Yimo definitely had some unknown aim. Coldness gathered within Ying Huan's pretty eyes when this serious matter was mentioned, and she clenched her hand tightly. After pondering for a moment, she said, "We can prepare to summon her soul." The Flame Master and the rest were stunned, before they quickly nodded. It was indeed about time. "Let's get ready." The Darkness Master stood up. Her words suddenly cut as her expression became awkward. After which, she arrived beside Ying Huan and softly said, "It seems that we can't do it now." The Flame Master and the rest had also become aware. They looked towards a certain direction, and watched the space there distort as a figure swiftly shot over. Ying Huan had naturally also felt this familiar aura. Anxiety and panic was revealed in her icy eyes, while her hand was involuntarily tightened. "Ha ha, so this is where everyone is." Space was distorted, and a figure appeared on the mountain peak. Lin Dong looked at the Flame Master and the others. He cupped his hands together and smiled. The Flame Master's group looked at Lin Dong as surprise flashed across their eyes. "You have already created the Divine Palace." Their voices contained a shock that could not be hidden. They were well aware of just how difficult it was to create the Divine Palace. Even their present selves could not say that they had succeeded. Yet, Lin Dong had completed this step. This naturally caused them to be exceptionally shocked. "I was lucky." Lin Dong landed on the ground as he smiled and shook his head. After which, he looked at Ying Huan at the top of the mountain peak. The latter's plain dress and long icy blue hair gently swayed under the mountain breeze. Her clear and pretty eyes seemed to avoid him after seeing him approach. "Both of you should chat." The Darkness Master waved towards the Flame Master and the rest upon seeing this. After which, they turned and left. "Senior sister." Ying Huan's felt a little panic in her ice-cold heart when she saw that they were about to leave. She hurriedly wanted to make them stay. However, they had already disappeared. Lin Dong's gaze paused on Ying Huan after seeing that the Darkness Master's group had left for the time being. After which, he walked forward. Ying Huan's aura, which did not weaken even when facing the Heaven-Seat King of Devil Prison, became sluggish upon seeing this. She involuntarily took a small step back. "Why? Are you unhappy that I have come out from my cultivation seclusion?" Lin Dong stood in front of Ying Huan and smilingly asked. No, Ying Huan shook her head, but her pretty eyes slightly flickered. "In that case, you should look at me when you speak." It was the first time Lin Dong had such an evasive mannerism from her. He could not help but find it rather interesting. He extended his hand and gently lifted Ying Huan's sharp snow-white chin. After which, both pairs of eyes looked into each other. Ying Huan was also startled by Lin Dong's action. She gazed upon at the increasingly determined young face in front of her. The latter's eyes were filled with a warm smile, causing her heart to feel a little warmth. "Congratulations. You have created the Divine Palace." Ying Huan softly said. Lin Dong grinned. After which, he saw the long snow-white gloves that on Ying Huan's hands. She also seemed to have detected his eyes, and involuntarily withdrew her hands. Lin Dong grabbed her arm before she could do this. A frightening chill emanated from the glove he held in his hand. "What happened?" Lin Dong frowned slightly and asked. "Nothing." Ying Huan struggled for a while. She wanted to pull her arm back, but Lin Dong's hand was just like a metal pincer. He stared at her and extended his other hand to gently remove the glove. Ying Huan sighed softly in her heart upon seeing this. She could only allow him to do as he pleased. A crystal-like hand was revealed after the snow-white glove was removed. The original fair and slender hand had become crystal like ice. At a glance, it appeared as though her hand was made entirely from ice. Lin Dong was a little taken aback as he looked at her ice-like hands. A frightening chill seeped towards him as he held her hand. This chill made him feel an intense and sharp pain. "Ch." Cold qi converged on Lindong's palm, and a thin layer of ice swiftly covered Lindong's arm. The latter could feel the yuan power within his body become sluggish when his arm was enveloped by this layer of ice. What is this? Lindong completely ignored the ice covering his arm as he stared at Ying Huan. There was a trace of anger in his voice. Ying Huan gently bit her lips, but stubbornly refused to speak. Is this the repercussion from opening the ancestral citadel? Lindong thought for a moment, and quickly recalled the strange actions of Ying Huan at that time. Why didn't you tell me? Will you still go in if I told you? Ying Huan stared at Lindong and retorted. Whether I go in or not is for me to decide. I seem to have told you before that you are not allowed to lie to me. Lindong furiously said. Even if it not for you, I will still open the ancestral citadel. If it not for the ancestral citadel, do you know just how many people in the chaotic Demon Sea, Demon Region, and Forxian regions would have died? It was clearly the first time that Ying Huan had seen Lindong become angry at her. She could not help but feel wronged in her heart. However, she still clenched her teeth and spoke. Do you enjoy being the savior of the world so much? Lindong cried out angrily. He had did his best to train. Yet, she had did her best to torture herself. Then what should I have done? Allow Devil Prison to sweep over the world and let everyone die together. Ying Huan clenched her hands and said, all right, since you love to be a savior, go and be one. I will no longer concern myself with you. Lindong's eyes widened with rage as he said. Ying Huan's lovely figure shook while she stared intently at Lindong. Her body trembled as she turned her head away. Her eyes had turned red as tears began to roll down her face. Then don't bother about me. I don't need you to care even if I die. Ying Huan shrugged off Lindong's hand as she choked out. Lindong looked at her trembling figure. At this very moment, she appeared exceptionally weak. The ice-cold aura was no longer present. This caused his heart to ache. He reached out and tried to grab her. However, Ying Huan stubbornly dodged him. Lindong disregarded this. He unreasonably grabbed her hand and powerfully pulled, dragging her into his embrace. Both of his arms were like pincers. They were accompanied by an iciness as they grabbed her narrow waist, which felt extremely nice to touch. Ying Huan struggled with all her might. However, she seemed to have forgotten that she was stronger than Lindong. If they really fought, Lindong would not be able to stop her. Don't move. Lindong cried out angrily. Ying Huan gritted her teeth. I don't need you to care. Lindong adopted a stern face. He lowered his head and ruthlessly kissed those rosy lips. Both of them suddenly stiffened when their lips made contact. The sensation on their touching skins was slightly cool like jade, yet there was a certain peacefulness under this sensation. Ying Huan was clearly stunned by this action of his. Her icy blue eyes looked at the face that was almost touching her own. She did not dare to move, while a blush gushed out on her pretty face. The two kissed on the mountaintop. It was a long time later before their lips separated. Ying Huan finally recovered. Her somewhat red eyes stared at Lindong in embarrassment and anger. You what? Lindong licked his lips. After which, he tightly hugged the girl in his embrace. A faint glint appeared within his pitch-black eyes. After which, his lips approached her ear, and he softly said, Your appearance earlier was really like how you were in the past. Like the lively girl, who would occasionally act willfully and throw tantrums, but also make one could not help but cherish her. Ying Huan gently leaned on Lindong's chest as she felt his warmth. Tears once again emerged in her eyes. After which, she muttered softly, I did not want to lie to you. But I really did not have any other choice. Lindong felt some sadness in his heart after hearing the choking voice of the girl in his embrace. After which, he held her firmly and said in a serious voice, I will protect you. Ying Huan shut her eyes as she gently buried her face into Lindong's chest. There was a slight smile on her face. However, this smile was accompanied by a slight trace of bitterness. With these words of yours, I will be perfectly satisfied regardless of what happens in the end. Atop the mountain peak, the two figures hugged each other for a long time, before Ying Huan finally pushed Lin Dong away. She pursed her rosy lips and glared at Lin Dong in a somewhat embarrassed manner as she said, "It is all your fault. They have definitely seen us. They can watch all they want." Lin Dong was unconcerned. Soon after, he smiled at Ying Huan and said, "Why are you becoming more and more like how you were in the past? It might be akin to the final radiance of the setting sun." Ying Huan heedlessly said. However, she smiled faintly after seeing Lin Dong's stern face. "We are preparing to initiate the soul summoning." Soul summoning? Lin Dong was startled. There seems to be no signs of activity from first senior sister. However, I can sense that she has successfully reincarnated. Once the three great regions stabilize, we will engage Devil Prison in the decisive battle. Hence, we need to summon her. Ying Huan said. "First senior sister." Lin Dong frowned. He thought for a moment, before replying. "That's right, it's the Life-Death Master. Is she really still alive?" First senior sister controls the power of life and death. Amongst us, first senior sister is the one who is most unlikely to die. Ying Huan said. "This forceful summoning won't have any detrimental effect, will it?" Lin Dong asked. "I can sense that first senior sister has successfully reincarnated. There should not be problem summoning her now." Ying Huan said. Lin Dong nodded. The Life-Death Master was one of the 8 ancient masters. If they had her aid when the great battle began, it would raise their chances of victory. "Please help guard us while we arrange for the soul summoning." "Okay. Leave it to me." Ying Huan beckoned with her hand, and light flashed on the mountain top as the Flame Master and the others appeared. They gazed at the two individuals with a strange look in their eyes. Cough. Lin Dong could not help but cough dryly after seeing the expression in their eyes, while Ying Huan's pretty face reddened. Soon after, she calmed her heart and said, "Let's begin." The Flame Master and the others nodded. They immediately moved and rose into the air as frightening Yuan power ripples swept out from within their bodies like floodwater. Yuan power spread. Finally, it turned into many entwining threads of light. These threads gradually turned into a complicated array, while Ying Huan and the rest stood at the 6 corners of the array. A circular light barrier rose and finally covered the 6 of them. Ying Huan glanced at the Darkness Master and nodded. With a flick of her finger, a black and white speck of light suddenly shot out. This light floated at the middle of the formation. It was a very tiny cluster of light, and there seemed to be a thread of black hair floating within it. A mysterious fluctuation faintly emanated from it. The group sat down in the air as their eyes were slowly shut. The strand black hair started to burn, and an incomparably mysterious ripple quietly spread before vanishing. The 6 people in the sky were all completely silent. Lin Dong stared at them. After seeing that there was nothing unusual, he finally nodded and sat down on the mountain. He was aware that they needed to quietly wait. Perhaps, the next figure which appeared in the horizon would be that legendary Life-Death Master. Lin Dong felt some curiosity towards this ancient master whom he had never met. Attempting to summon the Life-Death Master clearly required some time. 10 days passed while Lin Dong sat on the mountain. In the sky, Ying Huan's group did not show any signs of stopping during these 10 days. Many faint and mysterious ripples were emitted. However, Lin Dong did not see the Life-Death Master appear. It seemed that summoning her was not an easy task. The Demon region and the 4 Xian regions were unusually turbulent during these 10 days. With the addition of the chaotic Demon Sea Alliance army, the strength of the 2 great alliance armies rose significantly. This allowed them to begin attacking the Yimo armies. Both sides fought continuously for 10 days. The commotion from the battles had basically spread throughout the Demon region and the 4 Xian regions. It was an extremely miserable fight. Blood splattered over the land, and the sky seemed to be covered by a vast stream of figures. Such a war could only be described as terrifying. This episode ends here.